There was a time when change came slowly. A new invention would take years, sometimes decades, to spread across the world. People had time to adjust, time to question, time to understand what was happening around them. There was space to think, to reflect, and to decide whether something was good or whether it carried consequences that had not yet been seen. Society moved at a pace where people could process change before it became permanent. But that is no longer the world we are living in. Now, change happens almost overnight. One moment, something sounds like science fiction, and the next, it's part of your daily life. What once seemed distant is now normal. What once seemed impossible is now expected. And what once raised concern is now embraced without hesitation. We are living in a time where the speed of transformation is unlike anything humanity has ever experienced before. Artificial intelligence is no longer something confined to laboratories. It is now embedded into everyday life. It writes, it speaks, it learns, it observes. It is shaping businesses, influencing decisions, and even guiding the way people think and interact. Systems are becoming faster, smarter, and more connected than ever before. What used to require human effort is now being automated, analyzed, and optimized by machines that never sleep. And alongside this, another shift is taking place. One that is just as significant, if not more. We are moving from physical systems to digital systems, from paper identification to digital identity, from cash to contactless, from independence to integration. Everything is becoming connected. Everything is becoming streamlined. Everything is becoming centralized. And while this is often presented as progress, very few are asking where this is ultimately leading. Because when everything is connected, everything can be controlled. But the question we must ask is this: what happens when access to everything depends on that system? Because the more connected a system becomes, the more control it allows. If your identity is digital, it can be verified. If your money is digital, it can be tracked. If your behavior is monitored, it can be analyzed. And if all of these systems are linked together, they can be controlled. This is not fear. This is reality. We are watching the infrastructure of a new kind of world being built right in front of us. A world where everything is faster, everything is smarter, everything is more efficient. But also a world where everything can be monitored, restricted, and managed. A world where the systems that make life easier also hold the power to limit access. And what makes this moment even more striking is that these changes are not hidden. They are happening openly. Even world leaders are speaking about the acceleration of this technological future. Recently, Donald Trump spoke about the importance of winning the race for 6G technology. At first, that may sound like just another step forward in communication, another upgrade, another improvement. But it represents something much bigger. Because 6G is not just about faster internet speeds. It is about deeper integration. It is about connecting devices, systems, and potentially even the human body in ways that have never been done before. It is about building a world where everything is linked, everything is responsive, and everything is constantly communicating in real time. And when you begin to understand that, something should stand out. Because we are no longer just talking about technology around us. We are moving toward technology that interacts with us in ways that are more personal, more invasive, and more integrated than ever before. Now, this does not mean that every advancement is evil. It does not mean that every new system is dangerous. but it does mean that we must pay attention. Because technology itself is neutral, but how it is used determines everything. Throughout history, the most powerful tools have always had the greatest potential for both good and harm. And what we are seeing now is the rise of tools that are more powerful than anything humanity has ever had before. We are watching the early stages of a world where identity, communication, finance, and behavior are all being woven together into one interconnected system. A system that is efficient, intelligent, and incredibly powerful. And yet, the most important detail is not the technology itself. It is how people are responding to it. Because people are not resisting these changes. They are embracing them. They are embracing the convenience. They are embracing the speed. They are embracing the simplicity. Every new feature, every new system, every new update is being welcomed because it makes life easier, because it removes friction, because it promises a smoother way of living. But throughout history, one of the most dangerous exchanges has always been this. People are willing to trade freedom for convenience. And when that trade happens slowly, almost invisibly, it becomes even more powerful. We are now seeing a generation grow up that has never known a world without constant digital connection. A generation that is comfortable scanning, verifying, logging in, and sinking every part of their lives into systems they do not fully understand. A generation that sees this level of integration not as unusual, but as normal. And little by little, dependency is increasing. Not through force, but through choice. That is what makes this moment so significant. Because when something is forced, people resist. But when something is welcomed, it becomes permanent. And right now, we are living in a time where the foundation of something much bigger is being laid. Not in secret, not hidden, but in plain sight. A world that is more connected than ever before, a world that is more advanced than ever before, a world that is changing faster than ever before. And the question is no longer whether things are changing. The question is whether we truly understand what those changes are leading toward, and whether we are spiritually awake enough to discern the times we are living in. What begins as convenience can quietly become control. And that is the pattern we are starting to see unfold before our eyes. Because the systems that are being built today are not just designed to make life easier. They are designed to manage access. Access to services. Access to money. Access to travel. Access to everyday life. And once access can be managed, it can also be restricted. That is the reality of any system that holds authority over how people interact with the world around them. We are moving into a time where identity is no longer just something you carry. It is something that must be verified. Digital identity systems are being introduced across nations, allowing individuals to prove who they are instantly through technology. On the surface, this seems efficient. It removes paperwork. It speeds up processes. It simplifies interactions. But there is another side to it. Because when identity becomes digital, it also becomes something that can be controlled. It can be approved, denied, flagged, or restricted. It becomes something that exists within a system, rather than something that belongs entirely to you. And once your identity is inside a system, your access to that system becomes dependent on its rules. Now consider money. For generations, people have relied on physical cash, something tangible, something they could hold, something they could use freely. But that is changing rapidly. We are moving toward a world where money is becoming entirely digital. Payments are now made through phones, cards, and online systems. Physical currency is slowly fading into the background. And digital money behaves very differently from physical money. It can be tracked, it can be monitored, it can be limited, it can even be programmed. Imagine a world where your money is not just stored, but controlled. Where spending can be restricted based on certain conditions. Where access to your own finances could be paused, delayed, or denied. Where transactions could be approved or rejected depending on compliance with a system. This is not a distant possibility. This is the direction in which financial systems are moving. And when you combine digital identity with digital currency, something incredibly powerful is created. A system where who you are and what you can access are directly linked. A system where your ability to participate in everyday life is tied to your status within that system. Now add another layer to this: surveillance. We are living in the most monitored generation in human history. Cameras are everywhere. Data is constantly being collected. Every interaction, every click, every movement can be recorded, analyzed, and stored. Technology is not just observing what we do, it is learning from it. Systems are being developed that can analyze behavior, detect patterns. Right now, something is happening quietly in the background of our world. We are building a system that can see, a system that can know, a system that can track, analyze, and respond. And when you step back and look at it carefully, when you connect, people read those verses and wondered how something like that could ever happen on a global scale. How could every transaction be monitored? How could access be restricted universally? How could such a system even function? But today, for the first time, we can see how. Digital payments, online banking, identity verification systems, biometric recognition, data sharing between institutions. These are not evil in themselves, but together they form the framework, the infrastructure that makes something like that possible. And that is the key word: possible. Not fulfilled, not complete, but possible. And when something becomes possible, it moves from imagination to reality. So the question is not, is this the system? The question is, are we building the kind of world where that system could exist? And the answer is clear. Yes, we are. But here is where the message must shift, because this is not just, do you trust? Because the reality is, every system has a creator. Every algorithm has a designer. Every line of code reflects the values, the biases, and the worldview of the people behind it. And this is something many people do not think about. They assume neutrality. They assume fairness. They assume that because something is technological, it must be objective. But that is not true. These systems are shaped by human decisions. And humans, as the Bible makes clear, are fallen. We are imperfect. We are influenced by culture, by ideology, by personal belief. So when a system begins to evaluate people, to categorize people, to assign value or risk to individuals, we must ask, according to whose standard? Because if it is not God's standard, then it is a flawed one. And this is where the danger quietly grows, not because the system is immediately overwhelming to us, or already fully known by Him. He sees what is being built. He understands how it will be used. And he has already spoken about the direction of the world long before we ever saw it with our own eyes. That means we are not walking into uncertainty. We are walking into something that God has already prepared us for through His Word. And that changes everything. Because instead of fear, we can have awareness. Instead of panic, we can have discernment. Instead of being consumed by what is happening, we can stand firm, the one who truly is.
Right now, something is shifting in the world, and most people can feel it, even if they cannot fully explain it. There is a sense that the world is becoming smaller, more connected, more controlled, and at the same time, more unstable. Nations that once stood independently are now increasingly tied together through economic systems, political agreements, digital infrastructure, and global cooperation. Decisions made in one part of the world now ripple across continents within hours. What happens in one nation affects the rest almost instantly. And while many see this as progress, as evolution, as globalization, there is another way to look at it. A deeper way, a biblical way. Because thousands of years ago, long before modern governments, long before international organizations, long before digital currencies or global summits, there was a man who saw something, not with his organized. And here is where it becomes even more intense. Because Daniel doesn't just stop at the 10 horns. As he watches, another horn appears, a little horn. Small at first, almost unnoticed, but this horn begins to grow in influence. It rises among the 10, and then something shocking happens. 3 of the original horns are uprooted before it, removed, displaced, overtaken. This little horn doesn't just join the system, it begins to dominate it. And this horn had eyes like a man, and a mouth that spoke great things. This is where many Bible scholars point to what is often referred to as the Antichrist. Not just a political leader, not just a powerful figure, but someone who rises within an already established system and takes control of it. Someone who doesn't create the structure, but steps into it, uses it, and ultimately rules through it. Now pause for a moment and think about what this means. The prophecy does not begin with one man taking over the world. It begins with a system already in place, a structure already formed, a network of power already established. The 10 kings come first, the alignment comes first, the cooperation comes first. And then, out of that environment, the leader rises. And this is why what we are seeing in the world today matters. Because when you look around, what do you see? You see nations becoming more interconnected than ever before. You see global discussions about unified policies, shared economies, collective security. You see decisions Daniel saw with what Revelation confirms. A pattern begins to emerge. Not a vague idea, not a symbolic theory, but a consistent prophetic structure. A final global system made up of multiple powers, unified in purpose, ultimately handing authority to one central figure. So the question is not just theological, it is practical. Are we seeing the early stages of this alignment right now? Because never before in human history has the world had the capability to operate as one system. Never before has technology allowed for global communication, global finance, global tracking, and global influence at this level. Never before has it been possible for decisions made in one room to affect billions of people instantly. And yet today, that is exactly the world we live in. But here is where many people make a mistake. They assume that when prophecy begins to unfold, it will be obvious to everyone, that it will be dramatic, unmistakable, impossible to ignore. But the Bible paints a different picture. It shows a world continuing as normal. People eating, drinking, working, building, planning, completely unaware of what is forming beneath the surface. In fact, in the to personal reality. It is one thing to look at prophecy from a distance. It is another thing to realize that you may be living in the generation that sees it unfold. And when that realization settles in, the conversation changes. It is no longer just about understanding Scripture. It becomes about responding to it. Because if the pattern is forming, if the structure is aligning, then what Daniel saw is no longer something far off in the future. It becomes something that is approaching. And the Bible is very clear. When these things begin to take shape, it is not a signal to panic, but it is absolutely a signal to prepare. Now, here is something that must be understood clearly. The rise of these 10 kings, this unified system, is not just political. It is not just economic. It is spiritual. There is a force behind it. There is an agenda behind it. There is a direction behind it that goes beyond human decision-making. Because Scripture tells us that there are spiritual influences at work in the world, shaping systems, influencing leaders, guiding the direction of nations in ways that many people never even consider. And that is why this final system is so powerful. Because it is not just built on policies, it is built on influence. It is not just structured by governments, it is driven by something deeper. And when that system reaches its full form, it creates the perfect environment for one man to rise and take control. Back in the book of Daniel, chapter 7, that little horn does not start as the most powerful. He starts small, subtle, almost unnoticed, but he rises quickly. And not only does he rise, he begins to change things. He begins to shift the structure. He begins to speak boldly, to influence, to dominate. This is important. Because many people expect the Antichrist to appear as an obvious villain, someone clearly evil, someone immediately recognizable. But the Bible does not describe him that way in the beginning. He emerges from within the system. He rises among leaders. He operates in a way that allows him to gain influence before people fully understand what is happening. And that means something very serious. It means deception will play a major role. Because if the system is already in place, if the world is already aligned, then when the leader rises, many will accept him. Not out of fear, but out of trust, out of confidence, out of the belief that he is the solution to the chaos, the answer to the instability, the one who can bring order where there has been confusion. And this is exactly what Scripture warns about. In the book of Revelation, chapter 13, we see a system where authority is given, power is centralized, and influence spreads across the earth. It describes a structure where control reaches into everyday life, into commerce, into buying and selling, into the basic functions of society. This is not just about leadership. This is about control at a level the world has never seen before. And once again, this is only possible if the system already exists. You cannot control global commerce without a global framework. You cannot influence all nations without interconnected systems. You cannot enforce decisions worldwide without alignment between powers. The structure must come first. And that brings us back to where we are today. Because when you look at the direction the world is moving, it is clear that we are heading toward greater integration, not less. Systems are becoming more unified. Economies are becoming more interdependent. Technology is connecting people, governments, and institutions in ways that were impossible just a few decades ago. And while many celebrate this as progress, the Bible tells us that it is also preparation. Preparation for a system that will one day be used in a way that most people are not expecting. For the future, there was no sense of urgency, no awareness of what was coming, until suddenly, it was too late. And Jesus said it would be the same in the last days. Not everyone will see it. Not everyone will recognize it. Not everyone will be ready. And that is why this message matters so deeply. Because this is not about trying to predict exact timelines. This is not about setting dates or making assumptions about specific nations. This is about recognizing patterns, understanding direction, seeing the alignment for what it is, and more importantly, examining your own life in light of it. Because at the end of the day, the most important question is not how close we are to the rise of the 10 nations. The most important question is, where do you stand with God? Because when these things fully unfold, preparation will no longer be an option. It will be a necessity that comes too late for many. And that is the truth that is hard for people to accept. That there will come a point where awareness alone is not enough. Knowing about prophecy will not save you. Understanding the system will not protect you. Seeing the signs will not be sufficient. What matters is your relationship.
Click subscribe. You can also find more lessons and videos at thecleartruth.com.